The next 24 hours are going to be absolutely critical for the price of Bitcoin and the cryptocurrency markets. Not only are we seeing, or we're trying to see a breakout from the inverse head and shoulder on the 4-hourly time frame, thanks to the incredibly bullish producer prices inflation data, we have the CPI data. The difference I will explain. The CPI data coming out tomorrow at 4:30 p.m. Dubai time, and that's going to be the final inflation data before we see the FOMC meeting in 7 days' time, which all of these economic metrics, they influence Bitcoin heavily due to how the system, the broken system, is built. So in today's video, I'm going to be covering the economic data. We're going to be covering Bitcoin. We're going to be going into altcoins, including Ethereum, looking at the breakouts of the symmetrical triangle, looking into a little bit in altcoin season, what altcoin season will look like, and the coins that I'm really liking and the coins that I'm personally investing my money into in preparation of whatever that altcoin season will end up being. And finally, we'll also do an update on the very unfortunate situation that took place in Qatar yesterday that spooked markets down to about $110,000, but we're mimicking what price action did the last time there was geopolitical tension in the Qatar area. So we'll cover that very quickly at the end of today's video. Guys and girls, if you enjoy these videos, then make sure to subscribe, make sure to destroy the like button. And if you want to be trading on weeks like I'm trading on weeks, and I've been trading for a long time, opening these positions on Bitcoin since $77,000, on Ethereum since $1.6 thousand, you can go to the first link in the description down below to get up to $30,000 in bonuses. So make sure that if you don't have accounts, make sure to leverage the $30,000 in bonus with the first link in the description down below for weeks. With that said, let's go into Bitcoin. Let's go into what my expectations are. So Bitcoin is trying to break above the second line of critical resistance that I've mentioned in prior videos. That line, alongside being the line that will flip the trend on the micro time frames, it's also the line of the neckline of the inverse head and shoulder pattern, which is pretty bullish and has a target, in my opinion, of closing the CME gap that's located at $16,700. The only thing that I need from this trend line is I want the next 2 4-hourly candles being consistently above 13.4. That's going to give me a confirmation and say, you know what, CryptoKid, the chart is looking good. We've confirmed the breakout from this inverse head and shoulder structure. CryptoKid, go and add another long position to the huge amount of long positions you already have. I mean, not in dollar terms, because this was originally a $5,000 trading challenge, but also in my personal trading portfolio, I will most likely add another DC long position if Bitcoin is able to sustainably close above 13.4 in the next 4-hourly candles. That's what I'm looking for. If we can see that, like I mentioned, I think the CME gap is going to be a good target at the 16.8 region. A tool that I recently discovered, which I'm going to be experimenting with more in future videos, is the following, and I thought I would share with you because I just think it's a very cool concept. It's the anchored VWAP, and you may say, Cryptic, have you not used that before? Well, yeah, I've not, and this is like, first time I'm trying it out, and my friend showed me, and I think it's pretty cool. I don't know if I can go to settings and remove those two because it's not really that important, but us breaking above this blue line essentially means that we're reversing the trend in a volume-weighted way. Not on an average price way, but we're breaking above the bearish trend in a volume-based manner. That's pretty good. And if the next 2 candles, we can remain above 13.4, that's also going to solidify that we've broken out of the downtrend and we can start heading to initially the CME gap and beyond. So if you want to be longing that in the next 8 hours time, again, you can go to the first link in the description down below for weeks to get that $30,000 in bonus. Right, so that's what Bitcoin is looking like. As long as we hold the bull and bear market support band on the weekly time frame, you guys know that I remain bullish. If that bull and bear market support band is broken to the downside, that's the time I flip bearish. So far, it's looking A-okay. Tomorrow, 24 hours, we have the final inflation data coming out tomorrow, the CPI data. Today, we got the producer prices. The producer prices look at the inflation of goods that, so if a producer like Apple, let's say, because we got the new iPhone, it's a relevant case study. If Apple says last year the iPhone costed $800, this year we're going to make it cost $900, that is technically, you can argue, that encompasses producer prices. the guys that determine this data, they pick and choose what data they want to include. So it's not really so accurate. But in theory, Apple raising their prices from $800 to $900 should be inclusive. And I think it's a pretty relevant case study to explain what the producer prices is. And it's a good data point because you're also looking at the consumer and you're evaluating whether the consumer is able to pay for that price change. So if Apple increases by $100, is the consumer still willing to purchase that product even though prices went up by $100? So it's a very good data point for the Fed to look at and say, hey, people cannot buy, for example, prices have increased, but people are struggling to afford it. So let's cut the rates, reduce the sort of economic restrictions, increase the liquidity flow, and give economic relief to not go into stagflation or into a recession. So it's a very good data point. It came at 2.6%. The prediction was 3.3%. So that relief caused the price of Bitcoin to go up to the $14,000 mark. But what's even more important is the data that we're seeing tomorrow, the CPI data, because universally that is the data looked at by central banks to determine what the interest rate is going to be. The prediction is 2.9%, which would be 20 basis points higher than the prior data. If, like the producer prices, we see lower than expected inflation data, the probabilities for a rate cut from being a 90% chance we had a 25 basis point could go into a higher probability of a 50 basis point cut. And if we see that, and the Fed then proceeds to cut by 50 basis points in 7 days' time, the price of Bitcoin could fly to all-time highs. So keep that in mind. If it's only a 25 basis point cut, I think a dump would happen. But let's see, it's going to be a very volatile week, a very volatile 24 hours. So stay tuned on the CryptoKit channel. We're going to be updating you as we go along. The final economic news is that if you remember, one of the Fed board members was going to be fired by Trump. There was an executive order, if I recall it correctly, due to some sort of mortgage issue that Lisa Cook was involved in. But the judge, a U.S. judge, temporarily halted President Trump's attempt to fire Fed Governor Lisa Cook, basically giving majority of the Fed governors that decide the interest rates, the majority is still Democrats and not conservative. Does that matter? It doesn't really matter. It's just like a narrative that people are focused on. Does it have any sort of substance? I really don't think so, so I'm not going to dwell on it anymore. When we go into what happened yesterday, there was a very unfortunate attack on the capital city of Qatar, which is Doha. Tensions seem to be de-escalated for now, but if there is anything that arises, then obviously Bitcoin being a reactionary asset, being available 24/7, having a bunch of liquidity, that would go into Bitcoin. I have no crystal ball. Nobody can predict these things, so we just need to be looking out on Twitter. And if anything is to appear, then I will update you on the CryptoKids community over on Telegram. The last time we had geopolitical tensions rising, Bitcoin fell by 11%. And on the 23rd of June, there was an attack on a Qatari US airbase. And that actually marked the low for Bitcoin. And then we started to increase to the upside. Does it mean that the same is going to happen? Absolutely not. It's just an interesting data point that I wanted to bring to your attention. Before we end off the show, guys, when we look at altcoins, Ethereum breaking out of the symmetrical triangle, it looks interesting. Am I taking any new positions on weeks? Not at the moment because I have so many DCA longs. But if you want to DCA long into Ethereum, this breakout could be interesting. I still expect a potential correction to $4,000 and below. But if you want to do a DCA, small DCA position, you definitely can if you wish to do so. And using the first link in the description, you'll get $10,000 in Ethereum positions in new user rewards when you just deposit. So make sure you claim that with the week's link in the description down below. Total crypto cap excluding Ethereum and Bitcoin, that's obviously very, very much delayed. Bitcoin has went and made massive new all-time highs, but altcoins are lagging behind. I think altcoins will see a huge break to the upside, but that huge break comparatively with last year, even though the chart looks the same in size, is not the same in percentage. From 2020 to 2021, the price of altcoins excluding Ethereum went up by 10x. But the same increase, represented by this green box, instead of being 1,000% increase, is actually only a 70% increase. So where I still believe altcoin season is going to happen, I don't think altcoin season is going to be anything like what we experienced before, where every coin goes up by 50x or so. No. I think it's going to be much more reduced in magnitude. And I think coins, specific coins, individualistic coins that have a purpose, they will do well. And those coins, in my opinion, include Ondo Finance, right? They launched tokenization of 100 plus stocks. Now in 1 week, over $100 million in total value locked. You can go to Ondo Finance and actually get exposure to tokenized ETFs, which is pretty cool. The way that it works is it uses Chainlink. So Ondo is the tokenizing, it does the tokenization. It allows the trading. Chainlink, being the oracle, takes the offline information of how much, let's say, the price of NVIDIA stock is, brings that on chain, puts it on a smart contract, binds it with this NVIDIA on-chain token so that the token can actually follow the real-time price of the real NVIDIA stock. And they do it on an ETF mechanism. So if I was to buy NVIDIA on-chain stock or tokenized NVIDIA, based off of the quantity that I purchase, I forgot the name now. Ondo Finance. I'm getting old, guys. Ondo Finance would take the amount of on-chain NVIDIA stock I purchased, go to the real stock exchange, buy the same amount, and keep the underlying assets equivalent to the amount of tokenized stock of NVIDIA I hold. So it's really like an ETF. The only difference there is the redemption that creates are very similar to ETF structures. The only difference is ETFs, they take 1 to 2 days of settlement, whereas tokenized stocks are immediate. And I see a lot of potential in the long run. I think it needs to get better, better, and better. But in the long run, I see massive potential. Ondo Finance looking beautiful on the 4-hourly time frame, massive bullish pennants. I've been accumulating Ondo massively in my personal portfolio. I've shared it on this channel multiple times, but if you want to be buying Ondo or adding it to your portfolio, you can consider using Weeks, using the first link in the description down below. My Wi-Fi is horrible. And get a position in Ondo if you believe in the future of tokenization. Chainlink is an essential part of this plan. It's the oracle that brings the off-chain data and puts it on-chain. Chainlink, weekly time frame, huge bullish pennant. And I think Chainlink can go over $50. So again, if you want to open a position on Chainlink, it's also available on Weeks. And the link is down in the description below if you want to buy up some Chainlink. BNB hit a brand new all-time high. You guys know my target is 1,250. Still long on BNB. I don't think it's too late to enter into maybe a small DCA position on BNB in the case that we see a retest. I think a DCA could make sense, available on Weeks if you want to trade. And Solana long-term, I expect $500. So guys, that wraps up today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, destroy the likes, and I'll see you all on the next video tomorrow. So guys, take care. And as always, bye-bye.